Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating situation kind of playing out right now on the world stage. And it's got really high stakes, and we're going to try to make sense of it all.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye, I'd say. And, we're going to uncover some surprising insights, I think, today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Russia-Ukraine war. It's about to enter its third year, and things are getting, well, complicated.
Yeah, complicated is one word for it. So, instead of just focusing on ending the war, Zelensky is making some moves that seem to prioritize economic deals with President Trump. And it's raising some eyebrows because Trump's been signaling a shift, I guess, in U.S. policy towards Ukraine.
I'm curious about those signals. What kind of shift are we talking about here?
Well, Trump has been pretty vocal about wanting European countries to take more responsibility for Ukraine's security and its future. And he's even kind of hinted that the U.S. won't provide aid forever,
So he's saying, hey, Europe, this is in your backyard. You deal with it.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. And it's interesting because the shift seems to be kind of influencing Zelensky's strategy. He's been talking a lot lately about Ukraine's potential for rare earth mineral deals with the U.S., specifically with Trump.
Now that you mention it, I do remember something about those minerals. But why are they suddenly so important?
Well, rare earth minerals are critical for a lot of technology today. I mean, everything from our smartphones to military equipment, they're really valuable. And Ukraine happens to have pretty significant deposits of them.
So Zelensky's saying, we've got something you want, America. Let's make a deal.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's a huge departure from his earlier appeals. I mean, all that stuff about shared democratic values and the fight for freedom. It's much more about economic pragmatism now.
It's quite a change. What do you think caused this shift in his approach?
It's hard to say for sure, but it could be desperation, The war has been incredibly costly for Ukraine, both in terms of human life and the economic damage. So Zelensky may be feeling the pressure to find a way to end the conflict, even if it means making some tough concessions along the way.
It's like he's playing poker with really high stakes. He's running out of chips.
Exactly. And across the table from him, you've got Trump, who is also known for, his deal-making style. He's made it very clear that he wants this war to end quickly and that he isn't afraid to use unconventional methods to reach that goal.
So what's Trump's strategy? Is it just about ending the war, or is there something else going on?
Well, Trump's also talked about holding Ukraine accountable for all the billions of dollars in aid they've gotten from the U.S. and Europe. He suggested that Ukraine should maybe repay this aid, potentially through access to their rare earth minerals.
So he's basically saying, you owe us, and we'll take payment in valuable resources.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's important to remember that Trump has a history of using, economic leverage to achieve his political goals.
This feels risky for both Zelensky and for Ukraine as a whole. What could happen if these deals fall through?
That's a great question, and one we really need to think about. I mean, even if Ukraine got these deals, the U.S. isn't exactly overflowing with extra weapons. Our manufacturing has its limits. We can't just whip up more tanks and missiles overnight.
Right. So even if Zelensky gets the deals, there's no guarantee he'll get the military support he wants.
Exactly. Plus, there's the whole issue of corruption. There have been reports of weapons disappearing in Ukraine, ending up on the black market.
Yeah, so even if we send more weapons, they might not all end up in the right hands.
It's a real problem. Makes you wonder how effective future aid packages will really be.
Zelensky has also suggested trading territory currently held by Russia for other land. Is that even possible?
I don't see how. Russia has formally annexed those territories, and they're showing no signs of giving them up. It'd be like trying to trade a house you don't even own.
It seems like Zelensky's trying everything he can think of to end the war.
Yeah. I mean, he's under a lot of pressure, but we'll have to see if any of it works.
Okay, so a lot of tension, a lot of uncertainty surrounding the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now let's shift gears a bit and look at another volatile region, the Middle East. Trump has put forward a peace plan that includes relocating Palestinians from Gaza to, quote, beautiful areas in Egypt or Jordan.
Yeah. This plan has stirred up a lot of debate. It ignores the deep historical and emotional ties that Palestinians have to their land. It's hard to imagine they'd willingly relocate.
It's like trying to move a tree without its roots. Has there been any support for this relocation plan?
Well, King Abdullah of Jordan has offered some limited support. He's agreed to take in 2,000 sick children.
2,000. That's not many compared to the millions of Palestinians in the region.
You're right. It's a drop in the bucket, really. And there's a lot of opposition in both Jordan and Egypt to accepting large numbers of Palestinian refugees.
What could happen if such a relocation was forced?
Well, forcing that many people to relocate could destabilize both Jordan and Egypt. It could easily inflame tensions in the region even more. It's basically a recipe for more violence and conflict.
And to add to the complexity, Trump has demanded the release of all hostages held by Hamas by Saturday, warning of consequences if they don't comply.
This is a very worrying development. It could very well lead to more fighting between Israel and Hamas, and it could even pull Hezbollah and the Houthis into the conflict as well.
So the situation in the Middle East is extremely fragile.
Absolutely. And we have to remember that Israel's military is already stretched thin with ongoing conflicts in Syria, Lebanon, and the West Bank.
So we have two major geopolitical hotspots, both incredibly volatile and unpredictable. Feels like the whole world is watching, waiting to see what happens next.
It really does. What we're seeing is a huge shift in global power dynamics. And the outcome, well, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting to see how Zelensky's strategy has changed. He started out appealing to those shared values, democracy and all that, but now it's all about the economic benefits for the US.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to tailor his message, depending on who he's talking to.
Right, like he's figuring out what makes these leaders tick and adapting to that.
It's pragmatic, I guess, but it makes you wonder what it means for Ukraine in the long run. What if the U.S. changes its mind, or those rare earth minerals aren't so important anymore?
That's a good point. It really shows the danger of relying so much on other countries for, your own security. It's like building a house on unsteady ground.
And right now it feels like the ground is shifting under everyone's feet. Like the whole global situation is changing so fast.
Absolutely. We're watching old alliances fall apart and new ones forming, lots of uncertainty. And the stakes are, well, they couldn't be higher.
Let's go back to the Middle East for a minute. This Trump proposal to relocate Palestinians, it feels like, I don't know, a temporary fix for a problem that's much deeper.
Yeah, it's a plan that just doesn't take into account all of the history, the emotional connection people have to their homeland. You can't just move millions of people and expect everything to be okay.
Like trying to force puzzle pieces together that don't fit.
Exactly. Yeah. Plus, the logistics of moving that many people would be insane. Where would they even go? How would they fit into these new societies? It could cause huge social problems.
And the risks go beyond just the logistics. It could make the whole region unstable and lead to even more conflict.
You're right. It's a very short-sighted plan that ignores the real causes of the conflict, like treating the symptoms and not the disease itself.
And then you have Trump's ultimatum to Hamas about the hostages. Setting a deadline like that just makes things more tense.
It does. It's a high-risk tactic that could easily backfire. There's a real chance for miscalculation, for things to escalate in a way nobody intended.
Feels like we're on the edge of a much bigger conflict, and there's no clear way out.
This is a major turning point, historically speaking. The decisions being made right now will affect things for generations to come.
It's more important than ever to stay informed and really think critically about what's happening. We can't just accept simple explanations or partisan talking points.
We need to think for ourselves, challenge assumptions, and look at things from different angles. The world's a complex place, and the solutions are rarely simple.
It's a constant learning process, for sure. And it's something we have to do if we want to understand this world that's changing so quickly.
And it's not just about understanding what's happening around us. It's also about understanding our own role in all of this. What part do we play in these global events? How can we help make things better?
Those are big questions, but we need to think about them if we want to create a better future.
It can feel overwhelming sometimes, but we're not alone in this. We're all connected, and we all have a role to play in shaping the world.
That's what we're trying to do here on The Deep Dive, to give our listeners the knowledge and the insights they need to be part of the global conversation.
We believe that an informed public is crucial for a healthy democracy and a society that thrives.
So keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep engaging with the things that matter most to you.
Your voice matters, your choices matter, and your actions can make a real difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it useful and interesting.
We're looking forward to continuing this exploration with you in future episodes.
It's kind of like we're watching a play on a global stage, but we don't have the script.
Yeah, and the actors, well, they aren't always telling the truth.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing, and the ones we do have might be from a completely different puzzle.
Right. We have to be really careful about the information we see and hear and where it's coming from. We got to think critically and learn to question the stories we're being told.
It's easy to get caught up in the headlines and all the emotional stuff, but we have to look deeper, Ask ourselves, Who's benefiting from this story? And what are they really trying to do?
And be wary of anyone who says they have all the answers or who offers easy solutions to really complex problems. The world's messy, it's complicated, and the solutions, well, they're never just black and white.
Yeah, it's a constant learning process, but one we need to keep up with if we want to make sense of this crazy world.
And it's not just about understanding the world, it's about understanding our place in it.
What do you mean?
Well, like, what role do we play in all this? How can we actually contribute to making things better?
Those are tough questions, but important ones.
All right, they can feel overwhelming, but we got to remember we're not alone in this. We're all connected and we all have a part to play.
And that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive. Give our listeners the knowledge and tools to be part of the conversation,
Exactly. An informed public is so important for a healthy democracy and a society that can really thrive.
So yeah, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep engaging with the stuff that matters to you.
Your voice matters. Your choices matter. What you do can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive for today.
Yeah, we covered a lot, from Ukraine to the Middle East, and it's clear that things are changing really fast all over the world.
Lots of uncertainty for sure. But hopefully this conversation has given you some things to think about, some new perspectives.
If you want to keep learning more, subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
We are here to make things clear.